TV party tonight!
Oh, we got nothing better to do than watch TV and have a couple of brews.
Don't want to talk about anything else.
We don't want to know.
We're dedicated, yes.
To our favorite shows.
Oh, my crickets!
Everybody loves Hippo Toes.
Scary dog!
Pearson and Blurnsville.
Futurama!
Good evening. You are listening to a Radulich and Broadcasting Premier Podcast TV Party Tonight. I'm your host, the mandated reporter, and frankly, I'm mortified, Mr. Mark Radulich. And tonight, our favorite show is All Elite Wrestling Full Gear 2021, headlined by, for the first time, for the last time, hopefully, Kenny Omega versus Hangman Adam Page for the AEW World Heavyweight Championship. I am joined by Chris Bailey. Chris Bailey, how do you do?
I am doing super, Mark. Oh, 1 second. Go ahead, Mark Radulich.
Well, I was going to say, I'm going to have to change your nickname. You have earned a new nickname. Okay? You're no longer
the visionary, I think.
No, you're no longer Chris Bailey, because we no longer call you by someone else's name and have to keep saying your name to remind us who you are. No, instead, you're now Chris Bailey, Dead Horse. Sorry, Chris Dead Horse Bailey. We get it, okay? We get it.
I don't know if this is the time for an apology for Mark Radulich. I don't know, but no, we'll save that. We'll save that a little bit later.
Well, hang on. I'm going to address this right now, okay? And then we're going to move on from this. The deal was, if Eternals didn't financially perform north of $500 million,
which
it
did not.
It hasn't finished its run, sir. Movies don't run. We are not yet in the 72-hour theatrical window run era. We're still in 45-day run. How many days? I'm trying to not curse, and it's hard. I'm going to vibrate. How many days has Eternals been out? Just yes or no? Less than 45.
Correct.
Days.
Yes.
Okay. So the race isn't over yet.
How many days has it sucked and barely beaten Clifford the Big Red Dog in theater?
Okay, well, number one,
days.
That's a lie. Let's not give the Paramount Plus day and date movie more credit than it deserves.
Fair game. All right, I'll rescind that till the later date then.
When Eternals reaches its 45-day window, if it hasn't made more than $500 million worldwide, Dead Horse, then I will publicly apologize, and not a moment before.
It will not. It will not.
I believe you.
The Chinese will not let me down.
I believe you, but can we wait for the patient to die before we bury it?
I think this patient is dead, brother.
And that's why you're not a doctor. Now listen, we're going to talk about Full Gear for the
yes, sir.
Hopefully at some point. The last time we did a review, we did Crown Jewel, and both of us kind of said, hey, the WWE put on a solid, entertaining, fun event, and we enjoyed it. And, we had quibbles here or there, but for the most part, it was, other than the kind of typical complaints we have about modern big-time wrestling from the big two, a little too long, a little too much of the same stuff. But overall, if you're not either mired in modern wrestling or deeply in love with it to the point that you can't be critical, like some people are about 80s nostalgia.
Hey, whoa. Listen, my entire argument is if you are making a nostalgic product, it should reflect the audience that watched the damn thing in the beginning. Not someone's creative vision. My God, maybe we should turn Electro blue and have him as
not convinced.
It's Jamie Foxx.
You love your family more than 80s nostalgia.
Let's make Gem and the Holograms a YouTube star. Great idea.
What could
possibly go wrong?
I'm just saying maybe a little more, critical evaluation of things might be in order. Just anywho, anyway.
I don't know why this failed. Gosh.
You're either mired in too much wrestling or whatever. Generally speaking, I thought they put on a good review, and that's pretty much where I landed with Full Gear overall.
Definitely. Definitely. I think we had a lot of the same things happening. Like right now, if you put me into figure 4 and gave me the middle finger saying, no, I'm not going to give up. That spot took place about 50 times in this whole pay-per-view. So no, I'm being serious. And this is a general complaint. So you don't have anybody monitoring from match to match, the same thing happening. So WWE will get credit and believe, I'm starting with the WWE credit. That never happens.
Immediately
but anyway,
lose all our listeners. That's fine.
They go through their matches and they book their matches. So something that happens in match 1, if someone goes through a table, generally, now sometimes there's an exception, doesn't happen down the, in the latter matches.
I think somebody on a podcast or an interview somewhere talked about how you couldn't use the super kick as a transition move in an early match if Shawn Michaels was using it in a finisher in his match.
Boy, did AEW not get that memo.
Right. And therein lies the difference. So I'm not going to spend the entire hour-long conversation complaining about the length of the pay-per-view. It was too long, but they're all too long now. Crown Jewel was too long. This was too long. 4 hours is too long for a wrestling event.
Here's what I feel, Mark. I feel that 4 hours is too long, but I think it's Monday Night Raw is too long.
It's all too long.
I think this is why we're at this point, because we're exhausted, we're burned out. By the time we get to the pay-per-view, we've got 12 to 13 to 14 hours worth of content that we would have had to absorb. Now, smart people like us will go, hell no, we'll watch the recap show or skip it completely.
Yeah, like I haven't watched AEW, and I was like a big time follower. If I didn't watch anything, I would watch Dynamite. I haven't watched Dynamite probably since Daniel Bryan showed up. Bryan Danielson. Now I can't get his name straight. Daniel Bryanson.
Daniel Bryan.
Bryan Danielson.
Thank you.
I'll get it eventually. CM Punkelson showed up and like, so I would say for the past month or so, just because I've been busy with other stuff, I haven't been able to watch Dynamite. But I was excited for Full Gear, and a lot of Full Gear felt kind of fresh to me because I hadn't been following the weekly product. I said the same thing, the very same thing about Crown Jewel, where I don't watch Raw and I don't watch SmackDown, so it all feels fresh to me. That being said, and then we can get into the pay-per-view itself. The problem with even it all feeling fresh and having a genuine feeling of excitement for the matches, when it's 4 hours, by hour 3, I'm checking out. I'm either half asleep on my phone, fully asleep, or I'm just like, I just want it to end. I don't even care what's happening. Yeah. By the time they got to the top team? Yep. American Top Team. I could not think of the name of it. By the time we got to American Top Team versus the Inner Circle, a match I wanted to see and was genuinely interested in because I'm like a big Junior Dos Santos fan.
Oh yeah.
I no longer cared, and I honestly think I might have slept through it. Yeah. Like, and again, same thing with Kenny Omega versus Hangman Page. Like, I was excited to finally see Hangman get the belt, which is like, if they hadn't done that, we'd have a completely different conversation right now. But by the time after 4 hours, by the time we got to the match, I was like, I just want to go to bed. I don't know how the young whippersnappers feel about that, who might be listening to this going, no. I love to watch 8-hour wrestling shows 7 days a week. That's fine. You have to know you're in the minority. You have to know that, people. If you were like 4 hours, I can't get enough pro wrestling. I could watch pro wrestling 24 hours, 7 days a week and never get tired of it. You have to know you're in a very, very small minority. The majority of people watching can't sit through this much television all at once. I mean, like the UFC runs 6-7 hour shows, from start to finish, but nobody watches through the whole thing unless they're covering it for a website.
No, you're right on the money. Like the length of these things are, have gotten extreme, but same with the length and the extra content that's out there. So, I mean, is too much of a good thing, sometimes too much of a good thing and detrimental to the product? Yeah, 100% showing right now. We've never been super served with professional wrestling this hard, even in its heyday. Even back in the Attitude Era, there was not this much content out there.
Oh.
I mean, all the promotions are kicking in full steam. It's not only, WWE and AEW. I mean, everybody has marathons. New Japan is like, I swear to God, their shows that started in January still going now. You know what I mean? It's ridiculous. But
all right.
You know.
So the beginning of this 4-hour marathon began with a dark match on YouTube. Hikaru Shida and Thunder Rosa versus Jamie Hayter and Nyla Rose. Shida and Rosa defeated them in 12 minutes, 32 seconds. I'm going to say it now, and I'm not repeating myself anymore. Not only was the whole show too long, but some of these matches were overly long too. Every one of these could have used at least a 3 to 7 minute edit off their time, beginning with this one. But outside of that, I have to say, I don't have too many complaints about any single match in terms of the actual wrestling. The wrestling tonight was all pretty solid. Nobody seemed to be tripping over their feet. Nothing looked especially ridiculous. So this was a solid opener. I thought the girls put on a competent match.
Yeah, think about this. So right now, the buy-in is specifically to buy the pay-per-view, and they use the girls as leverage here. So I think mission accomplished, because I'm waiting to see the buy rate on this thing, and I think it's going to be very, very good. And listen, they've got a lot of faith in their lady athletes, and there's good reason. So Jade Cargill is not here. I'm happy. They got Thunder Rosa, who, by God, you know where I'm a visionary. You know where I predicted the Eternals was going to suck, and it did. Same thing with so you got two people that are on the horizon. You got Jade Cargill and you got Thunder Rosa. Both people will be the next, ladies champion in AEW. And I think Thunder Rosa is the person who's going to take out, finally, DMD.
I think Thunder Rosa, I think you're right, but I only think that so that they can transition it to Jade Cargill without having a heel versus heel match.
That's exactly what's happening.
I think I think they're going to rebuild Thunder Rosa. She'll end up beating DMD. And then a month later, like not even like as soon as the next big event they need to do, whether it's a special Dynamite, specially named Dynamite, or another pay-per-view. Yeah, Jade Cargill, they got to get the belt on her. She is money.
She is like China 2021. I mean, like literally everything about her is, she's the action figure in the wrestling ring, man.
Without
she looks like money.
Condemning the dead. You say she's China, and
in her heyday.
Yeah, but what I was going to say, I was going to give credit where credit's due. Jade Cargill is like 100% more of an attractive female, like traditionally attractive female, not even like, oh, if you're into that sort of thing. Like Jade Cargill, even if she wasn't like super muscular, would just be an attractive lady.
I'm completely offended. Completely offended.
I'm sure you are.
Oh my God.
Wouldn't be the first time I offended a guy this week talking about a pretty lady.
So listen, and you also got one thing here that I requested last time. We wondered what happened to Hikaru Shida.
Mm-hmm.
She was invincible as the AEW Women's Champion, and all of a sudden she started surfing bodies on Dark, like literally disappeared from the radar of the universe. And they're slowly building her up. But I think she's just a stepping stone and fodder right now for Jade Cargill to destroy along the way.
Agreed. Let's move on to the next match. Our pay-per-view, this one was kind of weird. I don't know why they started with this one and not one of the other ones later on in the evening. I mean, as I look through that list, I guess I can see why, but this was still kind of a goofy one to start off with, I thought. MJF took on Darby Allin in 22 minutes. And again, I don't want to keep repeating myself. So for most of this match, this was really solid. The MJF is a great storyteller. I think MJF is probably one of the few guys right now whose psychology is generally never bad in any match he's in. He might sometimes not mix the best. I mean, I think everyone I think his match with Jon Moxley last year at All Out, people didn't like it. Just the two of them just didn't mesh well. But generally speaking, I always enjoy the best thing about an MJF match is his psychology. And, and Darby Allin is used to having these matches where he's the smaller guy and he gets thrown around, but it's a lot of hope spots. And while MJF is not Miro by any stretch of the imagination by comparison, they still worked a psychology of Darby Allin having to come from underneath and overcome a bigger, superior opponent. So this match for a period of time was great until it overstayed its welcome. I really liked it. I thought, and I liked the finish. I'm glad Darby Allin can afford a loss, and I'm glad MJF went over.
Yeah, me too. And you had a lot of things. So Darby Allin incorporates the cinematic element. So we got to see his entrance where he's, driving this beater of a car and he flips it over and he emerges from the smoke, brother. What you got here, you're starting the show with two basically. Now I know MJF, was in definitely, similar other promotions before this, but both men feel homegrown. So you're starting with two over homegrown talents, which is probably the right way to do it. If you're starting with like a sleeping pill like Christian Cage, that's the wrong answer. So you start with two hot properties, a mega heel in MJF. You got, the hot commodity, the up and comer Darby Allin, who's selling merchandise, who's your action figure, who the kids dig. And I think they didn't do wrong here. And MJF goes over and right finish. But listen, one spot in this match I want to call out. So MJF rolls to the outside. You get to see Darby Allin climb up, and he's going to do his coffin drop.
Mm-hmm.
He almost misses the coffin drop, and literally from the top rope straight to his ass on the outside. Brother, that has to hurt. I'm just saying.
Yeah, he's going to be like Mick Foley, where he looks back on his career and goes, maybe don't take every bump on your hip.
Yes.
Or very Hogan. Important. Like, if I had known I was going to be leg dropping people 7 days a week for like 10 years straight, I might have picked a different finisher.
He's going to be, if he ever gets popular and gets to the like a larger stage or something like that, or AEW elevates their game, something, he's going to definitely be pulling the doesn't work for me, brother.
All right. The next match, the Lucha Brothers, who are, I guess, the current AEW Tag Team Champions, took on FTR, who are the AAA Tag Team Champions, and this was for the AEW belt. This was a little less than 20 minutes. And I'll tell you what, I've been kind of out on FTR for a while. I think they've been just criminally mismanaged, misused. Jim Cornette said Jim Cornette's conspiracy theory is that the Young Bucks brought them in just to beat them and then bury them, so that easily fooled people, like people who think that just because something's 80s nostalgia is automatically good and don't think about it critically. Those people would just hate on FTR and think they're bad.
Not this guy.
And anyway, I don't know how well that's worked. I don't know what the buzz on FTR is these days, but because of that, I've been kind of out on FTR. I think their matches have sucked as of late. This was great.
Formulaic, I'll say lately.
Yeah. This reminded me of the old FTR.
Mm-hmm.
A little bit heavy on the we kick out of everything and nothing hurts anyone. Like there was a point at which I watched this with my wife, and there was a point at which I kind of turned to her and I said, short of a shotgun blast to the head, does anything pin anyone anymore? There have been at least 10 finishing sequences in this match. Any one of them would have worked.
So creatively, you got to get yourself out of that hole where you're kicking out of finishers. There's lots of ways, there's the ref stoppage. There's, someone jumping in on you from the outside. There's distraction on the outside. There's all kinds of things. You don't have to have people kick out of every move. Get creative people, because you're hurting the product. You're hurting the finishers. A finisher should finish.
Right. I like it better. What FTR was really, really good at, one of the things that made FTR stand out in NXT and then to a degree on the main roster, was that they weren't kicking out of finishers. The other guy was saving his partner.
Bingo, right on the money. That's what you do. But you get creative with that.
Right. And when I think about like the best tag team matches of the last 30 years or so, it's always the guys that, the thing about tag team psychology is that it's obviously different from single wrestling psychology. Your partner should be paying attention and be there to save you. So you had legitimately situations where guys were beat. They were dead. The other team had hit him with their finisher, but they were saved by their partner, or something happened, or there was a manager distraction. There were things where you legitimately had the guy beat. He was not going to kick out, but he got saved anyway by another set of circumstances. And that's what FTR really excelled in. Everything was tight. Everything was quick. They were always up, and they were always creating dynamic interactions in the match. We hadn't seen that for a while. We saw it here tonight. But but there was more of the kick out of everything than there was the former that I just described. And I think that was a frustration for me.
They brought it to a new level where they were doing tandem kickouts. So
Yeah.
members of FTR were being pinned by the Lucha Brothers, and both men kicked out of the finishes. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
He's hitting like the fear factor, trying to put someone away, and both men kick out when both men make the cover. So, psychology wise, these things take a hit. But the Lucha Brothers are a spectacle. People come with expectations of what to expect, and shame on AEW that they don't give us anything different with these guys. But I think if you're a Lucha Brothers, fan, I think you were served here. I think you were served here.
Yeah.
But
Like
20
I said,
minutes, 20 minutes too long. Shave 5 minutes off that thing. FTR is super, super, super repetitive. I mean, I've seen this match a million times, even though it hasn't happened a million times. So
I think the last thing I'll say on it is, so if a match is perfect, it's 3 stars, right? That's the grading criteria I'm going to use. Or three parts, right? So 2/3 of this match was good.
Yeah, absolutely.
I had a problem with 1/3 of it. And that's kind of where I landed with a lot of the matches tonight, where I'm like, 2/3 of this was great. There's a blemish here, a problem there, and like 1/3 of it is the thing that I have to kind of, call out as being critically not what it should be.
Can I tell you the hardest working man in this match? Excalibur on the mic. Listen, is there anybody sharper on the call when it comes to calling moves, specific moves and setups than Excalibur? I don't know. I haven't seen it.
I'll tell you what, Jim Cornette criticizes that about him. So there are two ways that you can do commentary. And I speak from my amateur experience doing the boxing commentaries with you guys. There's remember that, I kind of think about before broadcast television, sports were broadcasted on the radio. So the person doing the commentary had to be able to tell you the story of what was happening, so that you had a picture of it in your mind while you were listening to it on the radio. And that still exists to a degree today. You can listen to football games and stuff or baseball games on the radio.
Correct.
Like satellite radio and stuff. So when I'm doing it, I don't call every single punch. I try to describe what it is I'm watching, and I will say, a combination there, a big left hook, but I'm not like punch, like what does Conrad say about battle royals? Forearm.
Oh, but that's true. Forearm, hold spot. You know what I mean?
Right.
You're right. You're right. You can't call everything, but Excalibur seems to. Every move.
And that's
he knows everything.
And that's the thing. I think some people like that. I think some people don't want to be. I don't think people want. There are some people out there that don't want wrestling to be shaped as storytelling. Like they seem to have this. It's like they know it's not real, but they want to be convinced that it is. Except that they want to be convinced that the nonsense they're watching could actually happen. If you get my meaning. So if a guy dives off onto his head and then kicks, directly onto his head, dives off the top rope, lands directly onto his head, and then kicks out of a 3 count. Look, nobody would really do that, but they want to be convinced that could actually happen. They want to be convinced that 2 guys would legitimately sit in folding chairs and take turns slapping each other.
Like a good example. So don't judge me, but there was a TikTok that I saw with 2 guys having a street fight, and one guy broke out the Sheamus white noise, and I was like, well, guess what? That dude didn't kick out after he hit that on the pavement. Let me tell you.
Sure he didn't. So anyway, that's my only thing. I think there are some people who like the Excalibur call every move because
I do. For this match, I do.
There are people who like Vince McMahon. What he's like, the polar opposite in the grand tradition of
what a maneuver,
wrestling commentary.
Great maneuver.
Where he didn't call any moves, So and Jim Ross was always kind of in the middle of that. Jim Ross was a good storyteller, but he also was able to call the action in a way that sounded believable. Yeah. And I think it's just a matter of preference. I don't particularly like Excalibur. I don't need to hear that this is a sunset flipping, Mexican concante, whatever the hell it is he says. But I know I'm not the only audience in wrestling. So
right, yeah.
All right, next.
I think it worked for this match. That's all.
Best match of the night: Bryan Danielson versus Miro. But I had to laugh about this because I was like, "And now your SmackDown main event: Daniel
Yeah, I
Bryan versus Rusev.
This is why it's important to start with the Darby Allins. You know what I mean? No, I'm serious. That's why it's important to, because you need to use these people to elevate your existing talent, or at least build everybody up. Because your goal in AEW is not to steal people from another company and make your money off that. I mean, that's a bonus.
Right.
But you also got to use that to elevate your existing talent, your Jungle Boys, your Luchasauruses, your MJFs, your Darby Allins. All these people should benefit from being in the ring with one of these guys. But here we have, like you said, the SmackDown main event. So
I think Daniel Bryan's the best wrestler of the last decade. Like,
man, there's an argument there. That's for sure. I'll tell you.
Purely on a technical basis. And I say that not because I'm like the world's biggest Daniel Bryan. I am, but like I when I think about how he either makes the guy he's with look better than he actually might be, or he just has the best match of the night consistently. I don't know how you can't call him the best wrestler going today. Maybe you're, like top 5, right? Daniel Bryan, Will Ospreay, Kenny Omega.
Yeah.
Who else? Seth Rollins, maybe.
It could be an argument. Unless you're going to Okada and Naito.
Okay. Okay. So 1 or 2 other guys from New Japan whose names I cannot remember at this time, and then and that's it. But I feel like if you factor all the pillars in that make a good modern wrestler, your ability to look good in your own matches, making another person look good, selling tickets, notoriety, legacy. I don't know if there's better right now than Daniel Bryan that clicks every single box. The only one that he probably doesn't click for a lot of people is size. Like, he doesn't necessarily look like.
I don't think it matters in AEW. I don't.
No, it doesn't. But I know. But Pat Mullen right now, just his ear started to burn when I said that, because he's a guy who there's a box that Daniel Bryan doesn't check. There's a box that a lot of these guys don't check for him, and that is they all look like vanilla midgets. But I think discounting that particular opinion, everything else Daniel Bryan excels at above, even above Will Ospreay and Kenny Omega.
I think Daniel Bryan is unchained in AEW right now, because you see a lot bigger moveset from him. His psychology is different. He plays to the camera differently. This is the best of Daniel Bryan. And listen, and thank God the yes chants are done. I mean, the audience are still trying it, but he's not playing into that. So that is not his crutch anymore. Thank God that we don't have the yes movement.
He's one of these guys who, like, he went to the WWE. He was a good soldier, got injured a few times, but did what he was told. Had a few interesting moments that I think are pretty historical now. The what was it? The Occupy Raw night. By the way, real quick story about that. You're sticking your tongue out, and I feel like now you're going to be one of the guys I'm about to complain about.
Go.
But I was one of these people who thought the Occupy Raw segment was one of the best things they'd done in years. Like, it was awesome.
Explain.
Okay. So do you know what the Occupy movement was?
Yeah, of course.
Okay. I don't know. Some people I feel like don't know what it was or what it represented, but it was people who it was a protest.
Yeah.
It was people like, we're gonna disrupt traffic. We're gonna, disrupt commerce because there are things happening that we don't approve of and we want to see change. And you're not going to listen to reason, so we'll be unreasonable until you're forced to make changes in order for life to resume. That was essentially the Occupy movement.
So here's my criticism of the Occupy or the yes movement in Raw. Okay. So everything that happened, I'm
talking specifically the night all the fans jumped the rail.
Right. Yeah, absolutely.
The fans jumped the rails and stood in the ring and forcing Triple H to give him his match at WrestleMania. I know that was a brilliant segment, is what I'm saying.
Up to that point, Daniel Bryan was completely authentic and organic. Things were happening. The yes chants were happening in spite of their best efforts to squash this guy. You know what I mean? He's not a sizable guy. He's not going to main event. We're going to do a triple threat in the main event. All the different things that you throw in there to ruin a guy's credibility and try to break him down. We're going to go with John Cena and Randy Orton again. The fans were not having it. Yes. To be
clear, they were pushing Batista at that point. Batista had just come back. He won the Royal Rumble. He was going to wrestle Randy Orton in the main event of WrestleMania, and everyone plotzed. Okay. Poor Rey Mysterio was booed out of the building at the Royal Rumble when it wasn't Daniel Bryan.
So the night that they were trying to do, I swear to God, it was Cena and Randy Orton again for another thing. And all the wrestlers were in the ring, just basically standing by. Shawn Michaels, Triple H, Daniel Bryan was in the ring, and that crowd was going knucking futs.
Yes.
They were yesing. That was organic. That felt real. When they did this, it felt like, oh no, they just turned this into a gimmick. They're trying to co-opt this and make it their own. And I was like, Okay. Hey, listen, if they opened up the gate and just let the fans pour in and just let it happen organically, I would have been perfectly fine with it. This was just some prop dummies in the corner, and it was controlled and calculated. Didn't like
in an alternate universe, I probably would have made that argument. But
fair enough. It's wrestling. What are we arguing about here?
Right. But for the sake of moving this on, I loved it because it did take something that was really happening in the world, and yes, it was staged, but it felt organic, and isn't that wrestling?
Yeah. And you're right on the money. And not only that, it was an acknowledgement finally that this guy is over.
Right, but it also
which they were straying away from.
Right. What made it authentic was the story was that Triple H and Stephanie were holding Daniel Bryan down. They didn't see him. It was art reflecting life and life reflecting art.
That was a legit story. That was a legit happening.
But yes, but then it kind of like the Montreal Screwjob and everything, where it's like, well, this is what's happening behind the scenes, but let's do it on camera.
Yeah.
So how if you're thinking about if you're writing a story and you're thinking about how do you get the guy to listen to you, make it so he can't make money, make it so that if he doesn't make a change, he will lose things. And so Daniel Bryan hijacks Raw, and here's the thing: when Steve Austin would do stuff like this, what would happen to Steve Austin? He'd get arrested. Right. Okay, they could arrest him. 10 cops jump on Steve Austin, handcuff him, and drag him out screaming from Raw.
Yep.
How do you stop that from happening? You can't without a mass of people. They're not going to arrest everybody. They couldn't arrest everybody in the Occupy protest. They're not going to arrest the 50 people in that ring that night. Right. That was the point. That was, and I had a guy argue with me about that. And I'm like, no. You don't get this. At some point, this is why Gandhi did what he did. Okay.
No, right. You're right.
At some point, you're shaming the power, the power people into having to change, because if they don't, they will be seen across the world as villains. That's what Daniel Bryan did to Triple H that night. That's why that segment works for me. So going all the way back to where we started, Daniel Bryan versus Miro, he is consistently having the best matches of any show I watch.
Yes.
And without being like a huge stan of the guy, like I never find fault with anything he does, and God knows I'm looking. Just because I don't want to sound like I'm, jerking the guy off. But Miro too. Since Miro got away from what's his nuts and his girlfriend, since Miro went crazy and became God's favorite champion, the Redeemer. Yeah, I couldn't remember his name. That's how much he means to me. Since Miro became God's favorite champion and Daniel Bryan's gotten away from the WWE, both of them have been on fire and been in the best segments of anything I've watched. And them together was the best match of this entire card. It was better than Kenny Omega, Hangman Page. I got news for you. This was outstanding. If any match needed to be 20 minutes, it was this one.
No question. I agree. Everything you've said so far. This match was specifically set up. The person who wins this will be the number one contender. Mm-hmm. Everyone thinks that Hangman Page is winning that belt at the end of the night. I don't think there was very many people that thought that Kenny Omega was going to come away with that strap.
Not unless they wanted the legacy of Impact, which is shooting themselves in the foot.
Correct. So what do you do? What's the obvious choice? To me, the first opponent for Hangman is not Daniel Bryan. He's brand new to the company. It's Miro. So this is a giant red herring. That's what this is. Because people, I think, honestly I wished that Miro actually went over here, whether it was shenanigans, whether it was a count out. They don't do count outs, thank God. Miro, I honestly thought that they should have given the win to Miro, because I'm telling you right now that I thought the crowd was into it. The match energy was off the charts, to the point that they copied a lot of the elements that happened in this match in two other separate matches. You had Miro who was on fire.
In a perfect world, either Karrion Kross or Keith Lee show up and cause Daniel Bryan to lose.
Bearcat.
Nope. Either Killer Cross or Keith Lee show up and cost Daniel Bryan the match. That
Right.
I wish that had happened.
Right. But instead, now we're going to go ahead with Daniel Bryan versus Adam Page, which I'm perfectly fine, about. But I'm telling you, there was points in this match where, especially when Miro started the show, you're not going to hurt me with your shitty kicks. And he was starting to fire up and he was starting to hulk up.
Right.
And I was like, yeah, tear his fucking head off. I really wanted him to kill him because I was super into Miro at this point. And I started a Daniel Bryan fan, but Miro has something. And I don't want to see him Hikaru Shida on Dark. I want to keep elevating him, and pushing him to that main event scene because I think there's something magical happening with Miro right now. Daniel Bryan got the win, all well and good, but I love this match.
We talked about this in February with the Beach Bash thing, in the wedding, and we were like, why, before he turned into the Redeemer, we were complaining that, how is Miro not in the main event? How is Miro not the biggest heel right now? And that seems to be the direction he's going in. I don't know. It's hard. I hate to be a mark about this, but I feel like when you make Miro lose, it sets him back because he's one of those guys that needs to be an indestructible monster and lose very infrequently.
Right. I think it was a mistake, and I think having him take Daniel Bryan out, he's so early on in his tenure that I don't think it really hurts Daniel Bryan, especially if it's super competitive. And this guy has already been established as a monster. So, hey, it's my night off. I got to fight my way back. There's more meaning in Daniel Bryan winning a rematch than it is winning this one.
I don't understand why. Like I said, I don't understand why Daniel Bryan couldn't have messed up Miro on the outside, rolled back into the ring. Miro's trying to shake it off. He's outside of the ring. Somebody jumps the rail, cracks Daniel Bryan over the head with a chair, and runs away while the ref is trying to count Miro out. Nobody sees it. Now Daniel Bryan's dead in the ring. Miro shakes it off. He sees a prone Daniel Bryan, jumps in the ring, steals a pin. Doesn't even need to put him in the camel clutch. Just jumps on top of him.
Yep.
And Daniel Bryan wakes up and it's like WTF. Meanwhile, standing at the foot of the ramp is anybody. Cross, Keith Lee.
Oh, so good.
Braun Strowman, somebody. And if you don't want to bring in somebody new for that spot, have it be somebody else that Daniel Bryan can wrestle while Miro goes on to wrestle Adam Page.
What a statement win it would have been if he put away Daniel Bryan with the Daniel Bryan. Jesus, here I go again. Bryan Danielson with the camel clutch. I mean, that would have been unbelievable. I would have done that. I would have straight up put Miro.
Well, I don't like putting people in submission moves when they're unconscious.
Yeah, you're doing the cheap tactic and passing them out. Yeah, I know. It feels dirty.
So
good match though. 20 minutes well spent. My favorite so far.
You know what helped me? Write that and that alternative ending?
What's that?
Grammarly.
Oh, good heavens, man! I tell you what, they really, really help us fix contextual mistakes in here in our writings.
They do. For you listeners of TV Party Tonight, and a presentation of Radulich and Broadcasting on W2M, Grammarly is offering a free download of the Grammarly software. Grammarly's AI-powered products help people communicate more effectively. Grammarly helps you write mistake-free on Gmail, Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, and nearly anywhere else you write on the web. Grammarly corrects hundreds of grammar, punctuation, spelling mistakes while also catching contextual errors, improving your vocabulary, and suggesting style improvements. Do download Grammarly today. Go to getgrammarly.com/W2M Network. Again, it's getgrammarly.com/W2M Network to download Grammarly for free. All right. And now we are into the back half of this extravaganza. Christian Cage.
This is the first match I didn't like. I didn't want.
Yeah.
Don't want.
Christian Cage and the Jurassic Express of Always a Bridesmaid, Never the Bride, Jungle Boy, and the Luchasaurus defeated the Super Clique of Adam Cole and the Young Bucks in a Falls Count Anywhere match. This is where the pay-per-view started to lose me.
Mark, when you see Christian Cage come out, what's your first reaction? My first reaction is, I would like to use the bathroom right now. I would like to take my TV and throw it through the wall.
Well, that's when I start scrolling through porn on my phone.
It's a better option.
That's when I'm on TikTok. That's when I'm checking to see how many views we have on YouTube for a previous thing I've uploaded. Whatever.
What were you pitching on Brazers there the other day? What was that? What were you making fun of? Was that Spider-Man?
It was old Aunt May versus young Aunt May. That was one of your buddies who said that, and I said only if Brazzers makes that movie. What?
Mark Radulich, everybody.
I like gals.
I do too. No dudes for this guy. Just saying.
I mean, not that there's anything wrong with that, but hey, you know, normalize. Hey, what is it on Twitter? What's the big movement? Normalize sex work. Normalize sex work. I'm for you, ladies and men. Everyone should have an OnlyFans. Check out Chris Bailey's OnlyFans.
No, don't check out my OnlyFans.
Where he takes off his pants and he compares his manhood to 80s action figures. He's like, here's my GoBot.
I quit.
And now
I quit.
And now here's my Soundwave.
All right, that's
Anyway,
funny. I'll give you that one. Fair enough. I've been emasculated. Let's get into the match.
How did your wrestling podcast go today?
Never bring it up again.
It was pitched to me that I could compare my genitalia to action figures.
I'm
going into the woods to live deliberately.
I'm at least bigger than 3 3/4 Duke from the Joe line from the 80s. Okay.
I mean, prove it. I don't know. Prove it when you subscribe to Chris Bailey's OnlyFans.
I ain't proving nothing. Oh.
Normalize sex work. Anyway, speaking of normalizing sex work, Christian Cage and the Jurassic Express versus the Super Click of Adam Cole and the Young Bucks. It was fine. Like I said, I wasn't particularly interested. This was one where I think if you were there and you were engaged in what was happening, it was probably a fun match to watch. But I've seen now. I mean, there's a Falls Count Anywhere match every week of some kind. People are even if there isn't, people are constantly brawling through the arena. So I don't know why I'm supposed to care about this if I don't really care about the participants in it either.
Too much repetition. And this is a good example. This is the one that makes the show take a downward spiral.
Mm-hmm.
Because you get to see everything in this that we've already seen from FTR. They got a mixture of the, I'm going to Hulk up and do what we just saw in Daniel Bryan again. And you got Christian Cage, who I just don't want on my screen. I don't want it. I don't want it. Now
you don't want to see him outwork everyone.
Good for you. I don't want to see you work at all. Okay. Don't work at all should be his new tagline.
That's great.
Please, man.
Stop working altogether.
Yeah, this one ended with Christian Cage and Jurassic Express getting the win, and they took out. Which one did they take out? One of the Jacksons with the concerto. Now Christian was about to set it up. Jungle Boy says, "No, brother, needs to be me." And he takes the concerto, and he really waffles this guy. I mean, he takes him downtown to Chinatown on this one, and gets the win. But
it's a weird world we live in when that's your good guy,
right?
Like, all right, my story arc, my character arc is that I'm going to waffle a guy with a chair. I'm going to take revenge on him. I'm, an eye for an eye. It's like interesting moral lessons we're getting in wrestling these days.
Yeah, this was a bit off, and especially when you consider what happens at the very end of the show with the Young Bucks, which we'll get into a little bit later. It's curious that they went this way.
Curiouser and curiouser.
Curious George might be another movie that may come out live action and beat the Eternals. I'm just saying, what Clifford did so well.
Hang on. You're gonna keep doing that. Hang on.
Oh. Man, that poor horse. Just taking blows left and right here today.
Speaking of taking blows, make sex work. Never mind. Cody Rhodes and Pac defeated Malachi Black, who will be appearing at the next House of Glory show, versus Amazing Red. Took on Andrade
Amazing Red.
Yeah, did you not hear me and Harry talking about XPW and House of Glory?
I didn't.
Yeah,
enlighten me. Amazing Red is still alive. Number one, that shocks me.
Yeah, Amazing Red's promotion that he shares with Master P. Yeah, that makes you say,
Master P.
Yes, of the No Limit Soldiers.
Hootie hoo.
That's hootie hoo.
Hootie hoo.
He makes you say,
garbage.
Oh, Chris Bailey, na.
No. Makes me say.
You're one of these rap is crap guys.
There's only one thing that I hate, and it's a bunch of crap. I hate rap. There you go. No Limit Soldiers.
Oh, well, the Wu-Tang Clan ain't nothing to mess with. Anyway.
Oh, no. Let's skip. Move on.
So, to point of order, Will Ospreay took on, speaking of the hotness, Will Ospreay took on Amazing Red in the return of the House of Glory promotion after a year off because of the pandemic. And then they announced that Amazing Red would be taking on Malachi Black at their next show.
Cool.
So, yeah. We're living in a fun wrestling world right now where, you know, big time TV stars show up in little indie promotions and, you know, in various parts of the country.
Neat. What do you think of this particular match? House of Glory aside.
Yeah. I think this should have opened the pay-per-view because, like,
really?
Yeah, I mean, they put it in the middle because you're supposed to care about it. It's supposed to be a it's supposed to have higher profile guys in a high profile match, except that I couldn't have cared less about anybody in this match.
Really? You're right on the money. So you got two people sardine can together. One guy who the fans hate with an unbridled passion, paired up with someone that the fans really, AEW fans anyway, genuinely love in Pac. So you talk about trying to get some shine back on yourself, you know, partnering yourself with a super fan favorite who's technically over. You know, they're trying to get some of that booze off Cody Rhodes when really you need to be leaning into that and going straight up heel down the line. I think that's where we're headed with this. But was Andre El Idolo, which I do not like that name, and oh my God, and Malachi Black, were they even in this match? Did it matter?
Here's the thing: 5 years ago, this opened Raw.
Right.
You know?
That's what I mean.
This is Neville and Cody versus what's his nuts and Andrade.
Yeah,
like
exactly.
Whatever. I think that's part of the issue here. Is like I don't mind these guys getting cut or wanting to leave the WWE so they can wrestle in AEW, but if they don't do anything interesting with them, it's still the same guys that we've already seen on Raw television or SmackDown television, just having maybe technical better matches. And again, for that minority, and it is a minority of people who just want to watch wrestling 24/7, I'm sure they could tell me the finer points of the move set of these guys and how great this match was because they executed the move so well. Great. I represent angry gun-toting, meat-eating, who gives a shit people. And this match did not entertain me.
Despite wearing a Bullet Club shirt, I do not like guns. Thank you. Anyway, moving on.
You've never heard that line from...
I just lost the neckbeards.
Have you not heard that line from Dennis Leary?
What was it?
I represent shiny, happy people. Good for you. I represent angry, gun-toting, meat-eating people.
Yes. Of course. So this one was interesting because there's a lot of protection going on with this one. So you couldn't have Malachi Black lose. He's brand new. He's red hot coming in. Cody Rhodes beating anybody would have pissed off the crowd. So you had to insert Pac. So you had to put Pac over, Andrade Idolo here with the Black Arrow, I think is his finisher.
Sure.
Falcon
Arrow, Black Arrow.
Yeah, I think it's the Black Arrow. The Arrowverse, yeah.
I don't know.
What was going on in the Arrowverse, by the way, last night? There was something going on Flash.
It's their annual crossover event.
What is it this time?
It's called Armageddon. And I couldn't tell you. I have not.
Are they doing Armageddon?
I don't know what they're doing. I just know it's called Armageddon.
Oh my God!
I have
One
not.
of the most infamous screw ups in event history.
Okay, yeah, I haven't watched anything on the CW in a year. I've been too busy with other stuff, and I don't have a lot of. Let's put it this way: I can watch one show that I can keep up on that I'm not podcasting about, and most in the last 2 months that was impeachment. So
now, do you know why Mark Radulich is tied up? Because he watches so much Sven Gulli. That's for you, Dave.
Yes,
it's you.
No,
Sven Gulli. Yes. Yeah. Hashtag Mark Radulich spends all his days hashtag Sven Gulliing. That's what he does.
That was basically you saying that I should start an OnlyFans and compare my penis to action figures. That's what that meant to me. Now I'm offended.
Rightfully so.
Anyway, the next match, Dr. Britt Baker, DMD. Did you know she was a dentist?
I'm guessing.
Took on Ty Conti. I really like Ty Conti. she did not get a fair shake in NXT. They beat, I mean,
Not at
she's
all.
such an attractive gal. She has such a nice body on her. And she has a really good organic gimmick. She's like a legit jujitsu gal.
Fans
And-
love this girl.
Yeah.
And plus, they've leaned into the jujitsu background, which is super
Right.
smart. She came out looking like Ronda Rousey, WrestleMania. You know, she had the rolls in, she had the face paint. She looked badass. She's over with the fans. And I think this was a perfect opponent for Britt Baker. And she looked really, really strong despite the loss. And
Yeah.
listen, Ty Conti lost nothing in defeat in this match.
No,
'cause, you know,
being beat by the champion doesn't necessarily hurt you.
and her minions.
Right. So give Ty Conti some more wins and she'll be fine. And like I said, she is like legit one of the best technical wrestlers on that roster.
Yeah.
She's
And not
great.
only that, she snuck a win. So, you know, she was protected in the loss because it was a roll up. She used a leverage pin to get the win. So pretty cool.
Yeah, no, this was a great match. And Britt Baker's had a pretty long run with the title now, so it'll be, it'll mean something when she gets beaten.
Yeah.
But was Ty Conti the one to beat her? No, I'm not unhappy she lost. But she looked great. She looked great in her loss. She looked great, having the match. And I want to see more from Ty Conti. I think she's one of the better pickups they've had in their women's division.
They've really built her relationship with Anna Jay, which I was surprised not to see Anna Jay at all around this, to help out, especially fight, Britt Baker's cronies off. But anyway, I enjoyed the match.
Maybe at the next big Dynamite or at the next pay-per-view, let's do DMD and Jamie Hayter versus Ty Conti and Anna Jay. I think that'd be a fun tag team match.
I'd be in. Listen, that's a good match, and I love the way that she names her moves after everything. So Tay Conti has the DDT. Which I love, you know what I mean? That's pretty cool. It's pretty fun.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah.
Next match, CM Punk defeated Eddie Kingston. All right, so fill me in here. I like this match, I think.
Yeah.
A couple things I wanted to talk about with CM Punk, but let's talk about the match first. The buzz afterwards, and then like I said, sometimes like I'll see a buzz, but I won't either. I don't have time to follow it because something else is going on in my world, or the buzz itself isn't interesting to me, so I won't know what's happening. But there was a buzz after this that people didn't like this match for something, and I don't know why. Like, fill me in.
So here you go. So I think what happened here, you had an explosive build. You got two guys who are indie based taking on each other. You got a guy who's super heavily pushed and an underdog that the fans want to anoint. You know what I mean? Eddie Kingston is the fans' guy right now. Okay. People love this guy, despite him being a heel. He's getting that Daniel Bryan crowd push. It didn't matter.
Take an aside and talk about what happened on Rampage that you insisted I watch that video. I want you to talk about it in depth.
Yeah. So you get these guys here. They've got a face-to-face, and these guys are grilling each other. Like Eddie Kingston pointed out specifically and dangerously to the detriment of a high-paid talent that nobody wants him here. Nobody wants you in that dressing room. And there's a little bit of that sentiment that he's stealing some of the limelight and just being shoehorned into the main event picture, which is technically not true with CM Punk because he's starting, lower on the card, working his way up. But he's going over the AEW guys, and there's a little bit of genuine resentment there. And then Punk counters with, well, you never ever win a match, and basically I'm saving you from being on Dark.
Okay, also true.
Which is also true, but what happened? Eddie Kingston walks away with the fan win. You know what I mean? People want Kingston, and you put Punk in a very dangerous situation where he's going to get booed. And guess what? It happened. They booed CM Punk for a good portion of this match, straight up, flat out booed. They had the yay boo going for a long time, and then he won him over. So there was a key point in the match itself where CM Punk got blood. And that sort of turned the tide. Fans were having almost like a Steve Austin moment. Now, here's what I'll tell you lost me in the match. You had Eddie Kingston, who was going full bore. This guy was laying stuff in, potato after potato, really, really lighting it up. And Punk's offense was really light and MMA based. So, he'd get on top of him doing the ground and pound, barely making contact. And I'm like, man, what's going on with Punk's show here? And he seemed not a step off, just not laying stuff in hard enough. You know what I mean? It looked really light, really fluffy. And then, of course, you had to end it with the go to sleep on Kingston. And I don't think fans really, really like that. I think they wanted a little bit more. The match was a lot shorter than these 20-minute affairs. So, it felt not like a burial of Kingston, but, almost like that dangerous Batista hand where you're like, man, should we put this guy over this guy right now at this moment? So I don't know. Dangerous territory we're in, Mark Radulich, because you got Eddie Kingston, who's, let me tell you, he's fire and he's money. That's what I'll tell you. And CM Punk put himself into a predicament. He needs to move hard into another opponent right now, or continue this feud. I wouldn't mind it. Psychology is great.
I said when they booked him with Darby Allin first, they don't know what they're doing with CM Punk, and this is going to unravel really fast. There were two things I think that affected CM Punk, and it kind of reminds me of Taz and Kurt Angle, where I want to say like Taz made his day. I can't remember what order this goes in, but I feel like somebody got overshadowed by somebody else when Taz and Kurt Angle both appeared around the same time. Mm-hmm. This is where I wish Harry were here, because like he'd be like, well, here's what happened, and like graphic detail. But if I remember correctly, wasn't that what happened? Like Taz came in and had, and was immediately recognizable coming in from ECW, but did Kurt Angle come in like right after that, and basically Taz was useless?
No, they had a match. They actually wrestled. So Taz debuted against Kurt Angle and beat him by submission. Okay. Now, you think that would be the launch pole for Taz. All of a sudden, he's over on SmackDown losing straight up to Triple H. And you're like, what? Okay. What? You know what I mean? Right. So they use he's a former ECW champion, badass. And then they didn't give him any kind of considerable push. They sort of he just became right in the shuffle right away.
I feel like it was Taz and Kurt Angle, but there might also have been another example of somebody made this big debut, but it immediately got overshadowed by another debut. In the last history of professional 20-year history of professional wrestling. Doesn't matter. The point being, that's what happened with CM Punk and Daniel Bryan. That's one problem. Was that you had CM Punk and he had that great pop on Rampage or whatever he made his debut. And it was like, but we all wanted to see him do like the Shane Douglas bury your previous promotion promo. That's what everyone was tuning in for. And he kind of did a little bit of that, but not really. Right. And then that was it.
Now here's
the most interesting thing about CM Punk was now done and over with.
So he was sued for opening his mouth on the Colt Cabana podcast, where he absolutely buried the company, and him and Cabana got heavily sued for that. Right. So you talk about a guy who's very cautious about his words. It's CM Punk.
Sure. I don't blame him. I'm just saying the most interesting thing about CM Punk was that he kind of represented a lot of fan animus towards the WWE. Right. What they perceive, what they believe, what they know to be true, what is actually true, all of that.
Like, for example, Mark, never go on the podcast and bury your cancer doctor. This guy's a quack. Oh my God, never go to him. You'll be dead in a month. You know what I mean?
I would never bury Moffitt Cancer Institution. They are a pinnacle of health, and I've never had a bad experience there.
Potential sponsor right there.
Anyway, yeah, sure. I could do now a rant about this, but I won't. Nobody wants to hear the troubles I've had with Moffitt. In any case, so my point being, but once they're going to do that, he becomes less interesting. But then it's like, okay, but we all remember when CM Punk used to be a good wrestler, so he'll have good matches, and they immediately put him in with Darby Allin, and I'm like, and you were one of those people, and whatever, who disagreed with me, and I'm like, okay, but he can only go down from there. And he did. Everything I said about that was going to happen with CM Punk has happened at this point. So I can see why a lot of people are like favoring Eddie Kingston. It's like, you were supposed, it was like fucking Anakin from the prequels. You were supposed to be the chosen one. You were supposed to lead us.
I hate you.
Meanwhile, they're over here is Daniel Bryan having the best matches of his career of the last 10, and and overshadowing CM Punk. It's like, what do we need CM Punk for? We have Daniel Bryan.
Right.
Like we needed you when we didn't have Daniel Bryan. And now we did.
Here's what happened with the CM Punk experiment so far. Now here's where I think they went south. So they got that mega pop. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. People could not wait to hear what he said. But then they drummed him out every single week on Rampage. Yep. It's CM Punk talks. CM Punk talks. CM Punk talks. And he talked. And he talked. And by God, did he talk, Mark?
And said nothing.
But he was on every single week.
Right. And
he's
then when he wrestles somebody, he's wrestling like low card, mid card guys. Like
Right.
CM Punk's an attraction. He's not Brock Lesnar, but he is an attraction. He's
He
special.
looks at it. He looks at it that I mean, when you saw him wrestle Powerhouse Hobbs,
right. What you
just
know,
saying.
there's a talk show radio host from a couple of years back. They used to say, and he was talking about dating, but I think this applies to a lot of things. Like water seeks its own level. If you are constantly putting CM Punk with low tier, mid tier guys, that's all anyone's going to think CM Punk is.
Right.
Look at who Daniel Bryan wrestles. I mean, he occasionally wrestles somebody probably not in his stature, but he's wrestled Kenny Omega at Grand Slam. He wrestled what's his face, when they tried to have a dick measuring contest with SmackDown from Japan. He wrestled Miro in a big time match. Like Daniel Bryan's been in some pretty top tier matches since his debut. What's CM Punk's biggest accomplishment? Darby Allin?
Darby Allin right now, yeah.
Right. The only other one was Eddie Kingston, but Eddie Kingston also hasn't won a match since the year of the flood.
Here's how I'm going to set this up for you. So this will make sense to you. Okay, say you went what's your favorite meal? Tell me what your favorite meal is.
Fried chicken, mashed potatoes, and green beans.
So listen, you didn't eat for 5 days. You come home, Melissa's got that cooked ready to go for you, right?
Sure.
Ready to go. You're loving it. How was that meal, Mark? You're loving it, right?
Delicious.
You come home day 2. Melissa got a surprise for you. Same meal.
Okay, so far you are describing my life, but go on.
Day 3, same. Day 4, same. By the time day 5 comes around, you're like, Melissa, hey, let's go to the taco shack down the street. Something, anything. Right. This is what happened with CM Punk. He's the trip to the taco shack right now. We need to get a break from this CM Punk. And I think we sort of did here, but they were on the verge of really making this go south.
Yeah. So was there something about the match specifically that turned people off? Because it seemed like an okay match to me.
Well, the shortness, the Punk's part in it was not good. Like Eddie Kingston was firing on all cylinders. However, they didn't give him enough offense. They sort of had Punk dominate almost the entire thing. And when Kingston would get a bit of fire under him, and using his, and he wasn't really playing into the heel thing either, because the fans were into Kingston and loudly into Kingston. And I don't know, wasn't what the fans wanted to see. They were an Eddie Kingston crowd, and CM Punk is that guy that they've been, it's that fried chicken meal, man, 5 times in a row. They were sick of it.
All right. I'm going to need you to walk me through this one too. This is the Inner Circle versus Men of the Year, Ethan Page and Scorpio. This is a fantastic name. Not since the world's greatest tag team have I loved a tag team name more. Men of the Year, Ethan Page and Scorpio Sky versus American top team of Junior Dos Santos, Andre Arlovsky, former UFC heavyweight champions, and Dan Lambert, who is their coach, in a Minneapolis street fight. So just on the same stupid card, you have a Falls Count Anywhere match and a Minneapolis street fight, which are basically the same match.
That's what I'm saying. Repetition is the killer of this one.
I wanted to see this because, again, big Junior Dos Santos fan, big MMA fan. I figured it would be a fun garbage match. I'm not going to lie. I slept through the whole thing. How was it?
It was not great, Mark. So, I mean, it's the same Inner Circle match that you've seen all the time. So it's, go get the gimmicks under the ring, brawl into the crowd. We'll use a stunt bump off a ramp. All the different gimmicks that you've seen. Sammy Guevara breaking out a ladder and doing like a super swanton, all this type of stuff that you got to see. And then, of course, you got to the end result, which was, well, I mean, listen, they were having some fun interactions with the UFC guys. Okay. Or, MMA guys, I'm sorry. So, Arlovsky and all the boys got into it. You had, Junior Del Santos hitting a move, all kinds of fun stuff that they were doing, but it was like one-off spots. The part in the match that everybody wanted to get was Dan Lambert being cornered by Chris Jericho. And Jericho finally
for a Bobby Heenan spot.
The Bobby Heenan spot. And we ended up getting that. So anyway, Inner Circle goes over again. Yes, it happened. But one of the things that was hilarious here was it was Eddie Guerrero night. So everybody was doing tributes to Eddie Guerrero. And Chris Jericho at the end of this one finished Dan Lambert with the frog splash. Now, Chris Jericho is not the same Chris Jericho that he was years ago on Nitro. This is not the Lionheart. This is the lard-ass Chris Jericho climbing that top rope and squashing, and I mean King Kong Bundy style, on poor Dan Lambert. But what was funny, you watch the end of this match, and it's worth going back to see. So he's looking into the camera, and he's pointing up, and he's going, I love you, Eddie. I love you, brother. I love you, Eddie. And he's looking down. He's seeing where the camera is. So he's sort of like, I love you, Eddie. I love you, Eddie. I love you. Oh my God. How great is Eddie Guerrero? But he's really playing it up. And it is like, oh my God, this is insulting. Like, you know, he really wants to see somebody show him on camera doing this. It didn't feel authentic, but this was not good. Like, get this off my screen. Sloppy in execution. We've seen it a million times with the Inner Circle. It's the same brawl match they've had with MJF's group, the Pinnacle. Same match, literally.
And in our main event, Hangman. How many times they've done Adam Page versus Omega?
Not many.
He's lost him at least once. I kept thinking like, oh, maybe this was the final one in the trilogy, but I'm like, this might have only been the second time they've wrestled.
Yeah, it was. They haven't really straight up Omega versus Page matches. Not many.
So they had the one with Cinderella. Don't know what you got till it's gone.
Beautiful. Listen to those golden tones.
Night songs. You know, if you're listening to me screech into the microphone and when your hearing returns and you're like, what the hell was he rambling about? I'm rambling about the band Cinderella.
Yes.
And do you know, Chris Bailey, where you can hear more Cinderella?
It might be on the same place where I was listening to some Firehouse.
Yes.
Love of a Lifetime, which was on Amazon Music.
You know what I saw?
Found the love. Sorry, go ahead.
Remember Mr. Big?
Oh, what they're like? They're two. Now they had two songs.
Yes.
What was their second song? To Be With You and
Oh God,
Music Man.
Damn it!
Do you have a green tinted 60s mind?
No, I don't remember.
That's what it was. Green tinted 60s mind was their second hit. But yeah,
Okay.
To Be With You.
You remember?
Oh, little girl.
Don't know what you remember. Now we need Pat Mullen. Remember Great White? Once beaten, twice shy.
Oh yeah, God, yes, hell yes. They were.
You know you can find all of those on Amazon Music. That's
Hell
right,
yes.
baby. Woo! And we are giving a free 30-day trial of the Amazon Music Unlimited service. You can stream all you want for 30 days once you click the link and fill out the information and agree to use the service. And if you like it, after 30 days, you can keep it, pay the monthly fee like you do with Spotify or Apple Music. If you don't, you can cancel it. No fuss, no muss, no contracts, no pains in the butt. And you can listen to, you don't want to hear me sing? That's fine. Who would? But you can hear the professionals. You can hear Skid Row, Slave to the Grind, Chris Bailey.
Yes. I have my Amazon Music track list right here. This is my history. Now, let me tell you what I got on here. I Hate Myself for Loving You by Joan.
Yes.
Hold On by Wilson Phillips. This guy.
All right. People listening to this, like, I'm 20, you old people. The hell? I don't know who any of these bands are. Anyway. So that's getamazonmusic.com/W2M network. And when you watch Adam Page wrestle Kenny Omega, you can relive that great video package that they did when the tag team split up, where Cinderella is saying, "Don't know what you got till it's gone," which was my favorite moment of wrestling of last year.
It was perfect. It
really was. Anyway, so yeah, I mean, they had their match, I think, when they broke up. Then Adam Page had his opportunity at Kenny Omega at least once, and he lost. And so this is his second shot at Kenny Omega for the title, and maybe third overall.
Yes, correct.
If I'm remembering my math correctly,
I believe you are correct. And this one was a lot of the same. However, I think they really upped the game. So they did a lot of the greatest hits that we've seen throughout the night, throughout the 4 hours. There was a lot of repetition layered in. But by the time you got here, I think people were ready to embrace Adam Page. It wasn't like a CM Punk where this thing has been beat to death. I think fans are genuinely into this.
I don't think they could have waited any longer.
No. Boy, was this pony about to ride out the door. But
yeah.
I think it's right time. And my question is, do you keep the belt on Adam Page? Is this the guy you want to run your company around, or do you need like a quick, shocking turnaround? Do you need a Miro just grabbing that belt on a house show type of shit? What would you do here?
I think he gets beat at the next pay-per-view, but the next pay-per-view won't happen until Revolution, which is March.
Right. So you got a little bit of time to get through your dynamites and have a couple big defenses against, your Japanese guys and your different guys. But do you put it on Daniel Bryan? My thought is no. This is the one where Daniel Bryan needs to drop the belt.
I think they do Daniel Bryan versus Hangman at whatever the winter special Dynamite is. Let's call it Winter is Coming 2, Electric Boogaloo. Okay. So I think they do Daniel Bryan versus Hangman Page at Winter is Coming 2, and Kenny Omega and the Elite come out and fuck Daniel Bryan, and then they have their New Year's show, right? They have their Christmas. If they follow the pattern of last year, they do a special Christmas show, they do a special New Year's show, and I think you have a lot of Daniel Bryan and Adam Page as a tag team. Daniel Bryan and Adam Page, versus the Elite, that kind of a thing. Different combinations.
I hate those builds. I hate those build-ups.
But I think this is how you keep them busy.
I think so too, yeah.
And then I think, and then while all of this is happening, I think you're building up Miro, and then I think between January and March, Adam Page goes over on clean on Daniel Bryan on a special episode of Dynamite. I think he has one more match against Kenny Omega, goes over him clean on a special night of Dynamite. And I think after, so let's say like Christmas, New Year's, Beach Bash, right?
Yes.
That gets you all the way through February.
Yep.
And there you have Adam Page. He's conquered everybody. And as he's standing over Kenny Omega, the Young Bucks are, the dead. Adam Cole is being stretchered out. He's defeated everybody. He has conquered everyone. There is nobody left. And he's standing there with the belt. And Miro comes up behind him and tears his head off and drinks his blood.
Oh, I would love it. And I think you need to do a signature win too. If you're going over the top of Miro, it needs to be an absolutely dominant. Well, that's what I'm
saying. I think Miro. Crippling. I think after like Beach Bash, Miro comes up behind Adam Page and just wrecks shit. And then they make their match for Revolution and Miro beats him.
I think so too. And I mean, puts him over like significantly too.
Yeah.
So I think where we're going to go. So I think this is sort of like the reset button. I think this is the end game because they sort of put a pretty little bow on different things. And one of the stories they were trying to tell in this, Kenny Omega and Adam Page were exchanging finishers, and he puts him away with the one-winged angel. You know what I mean? Really, 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 really cool. Beating a guy with his finishing. Was that the finish? I think it was, wasn't it? Did he beat
something
him
like that? Which reminds me, like the big guess was that Adam Page was going to kick out of the one-winged angel. It's like the one thing they haven't done yet.
Yes, yeah. But I'll tell you what, this match was, I thought, really, really good. I think it did deliver. Is it late in the show? Did that hurt it a little bit? Yeah.
Yes.
But one of the stories that they told early on in the career of Adam Page, when he was getting that main event push, the Young Bucks said that when he gets that shot, that they were going to be there in his corner. Now, you got to understand the story up to now, he was fighting against the Elite. So the Young Bucks were his enemies, okay? The Young Bucks come out and they stand in his corner and they do not interfere in the match. So they lived up to their promise to their friend. So that's an extra layer. So as he was getting ready to finish him off with the buckshot lariat, they let it happen. They didn't interfere. They didn't grab his foot. They let it happen. And they sort of stood there during the celebration, which I thought was a really, really, really cool moment. And he looked down, waiting for them to sort of, grab his foot or to interfere. And they just he just nodded to him and let him execute the move and finish the guy off. So is this the end of the Elite?
Well, I was gonna say, like, do you see like a Kenny Omega, Good Brothers versus the Super Click match in the future? Maybe maybe that's the next 2-hour Dynamite main event.
Maybe the Elite no longer contains Kenny Omega.
Maybe
that's a possibility. Maybe we can do the transition between the Triple H, Shawn Michaels DX, which was fascinating to me at the time. So. And plus, you got all those guys waiting in the wings, waiting to join this Elite. All these Bearcats and the Carrying Crosses and all the other turkeys that are sitting in the wings on the unemployment line.
That's right, true. So like if they're going to bring in, I don't know what's the rumor right now. Who's rumored? I know I've heard the Fiend is rumored to come in, and that's another wrinkle. That actually would be a good, like, let's get Kenny Omega to the point where he has one more shot against Adam Page and gets beaten, and I think that's where they do the kick out of the one-winged angel. Yeah. And then while Miro is drinking Adam Page's blood, there's the Fiend tickling Kenny Omega's sack, and now and now Kenny Omega has to deal with magic.
I like that idea. Actually. There's a lot of possibilities. I think that one of the messages in wrestling right now in 2021 that's exciting is that anything is possible. There's lots of talent that are floating around waiting to debut. And I think that 2022 is going to be an exciting year, sir. And this pay-per-view was pretty damn good.
We're just assuming that, ex-PWG wrestler Keith Lee is going to join his friends in AEW. And we're just assuming that, former Impact star Karrion Kross, Killer Kross, I'm not calling him Karrion Kross anymore, Killer Kross, is going to show up in AEW. But we might be wrong about both things. I have not had my ear to the ground to hear what the rumors are. The last thing I heard about was Braun Strowman was supposed to show up in Impact at some point, and that the Fiend was negotiating with AEW. I haven't heard anything else.
Now think about the pop that you'll see when you're standing in the ring, the bad guys are there, and all of a sudden the music hits. The big Titantron or the AEW Tron lights up, and it says Bearcat.
I asked you a question. Please answer the judge is ordering you to answer the question.
Okay, go.
Have you heard about any of the more recently released people showing up in AEW?
No, only the same rumors that you heard, and that was early on rumors. So I haven't really followed up to see if there's any movement on those things. But I heard basically the same thing you did. I heard there was some noise about Bray Wyatt for Impact. I don't know how far that they got in those negotiations, especially since, Impact and AEW has severed their relationship. So I don't know if there's any truth to that or not. But
all right. Last thing I'm going to ask you, and then we can close out for the day. Ring of Honor they're going to do Final Battle, and Harry Broadhurst and I are going to review Final Battle for our monthly look at the indies, which is basically what Ring of Honor has become. So after Final Battle, everyone's free to go die in the manner they see fit. Who do you think AEW grabs from what's left of Ring of Honor?
So you got to ask yourself, are they interested in Rush? Do they go after Briscoes? Do they go, you know what I mean? There's a bit of talent there, but my thought is that will they be purchased? Who is going to take? I think that ROH as a product is on a chopping block. So does it become a feeder system for AEW? Is Tony Khan going to flex his monetary muscle and take over? It's all contingent on where what the financial future of ROH looks like.
Well, I was going to say, AEW might want to just purchase from Sinclair Ring of Honor for the same reason that WWE wanted WCW, other than the ability to say we bought our competition.
Right.
That aside, what they got with WCW was the library. That was what was valuable, because certainly the brand wasn't. The brand had turned to garbage.
And I think there's a lot of talent that's in Ring of Honor that you don't necessarily want to transfer over. You know what I mean? I think that.
Well, I think they're all released. I don't.
They're released.
Right.
Yes, that is correct. But they're still, considered. I'm a Ring of Honor guy. And now Jay Lethal showed up at this show, which was an interesting thing. Now I don't know if you heard the allegations against Jay Lethal, which
I did, and that's why everyone was like, of all the people, Jay Lethal. Like Harry and I talked about that with Will Ospreay. Like I assumed Will Ospreay was done with New Japan and was going to jump to AEW to feud with Kenny Omega, and he was like, he can't. He's locked into New Japan, and I'm like, oh, okay.
It's funny that the guy who does one of the best Ric Flair impressions is following suit with the Nature Boy on the same legal stream.
Anyway, yes, I understand Jay Lethal was problematic. Just so we can conclude this discussion. If I'm AEW and I'm looking at streamable content, I'm looking at owning video libraries, I'm looking at, how do we beef up our product without necessarily signing 100 guys to our roster, 100 more guys.
Yep.
Maybe, if Sinclair is basically willing to sell the brand name and the video library to AEW, I actually think that would be a good purchase for anyone that ends up coming over. Now you've got the Ring of Honor. I mean, because every time the WWE does a package on Steen or Generico or Punk or Daniel or Bryan Danielson, they have to lease out that video footage, right?
Right. So
what if you own it?
That's what I'm saying. And I, honest to God, I think that if we're talking about Ring of Honor, I think it's going to be a Tony Khan owned property by the middle of next year. And
yeah, I don't think
that
they
tape
restarted,
library
though.
is important.
Right. That's the thing.
No.
I don't think they restart Ring of Honor. Let's put it this way. There's only a zillion like indies right now. Right. I don't even know where, and at this point, what's become Ring of Honor? Impact. So like, do you really need a Ring of Honor at this point? I think Ring of Honor has sort of outlived its usefulness. And even if you don't like that, okay, I'll tell you what the other Ring of Honor is. MLW.
I love him.
At some point, I can't even tell the difference anymore between some of these.
Yep. Ring of Honor, MLW is probably one of the most like NWA sort of gone away in the shuffle. You know what I mean? It's like
they got a show coming up. Hard Times too.
I know, but you know what I mean? Their prominence on the scene when they were on YouTube, they had a little bit of a following gathered. And they went premium there for a while, and I think it's just went.
Yeah. Sure.
Same with Ring of Honor, that's sort of gone away. And the indestructible company besides Impact is MLW. And they're still alive. And man, let me tell you something. You watched that product recently, it's still a solid product. They make the talent that they have there work. And
I've heard what's his face, Hammerstone versus Fatu was pretty good.
Whoa, it was a banger. You'll really like it.
I watched it. No, I watched it.
Yeah, I loved it.
Yep.
Hammerstone going over was great.
Yeah, Hammerstone actually looks like a star. I think he's starting wasting the best years of his life on a product nobody watches. But but yeah, I feel like if anyone in this game is smart, Sinclair will just take what they can get for Ring of Honor and probably get it from Tony Khan and be done with this and just move on with life. Agreed. All right, that is our ending with Ring of Honor. That is our AEW Full Gear review. Solid show, solid night of wrestling. No major complaints other than too long and
repetition,
too much of the same kind of wrestling. But hey, some people like that sort of thing.
Yes, sir. Especially Excalibur.
All right. Are you coming on the Mania WrestleMania tomorrow?
As far as I know.
All right.
Yep.
So tomorrow, Chris Bailey and I and Pat Mullen will be doing the Mania WrestleMania 10. Next Tuesday, the 23rd, right before Thanksgiving. Oh my God, Chris Bailey. New World Order. The Podsmen are reunited.
Thank God. I cannot wait for that show. That is going to be super fun. Chris Sheehan back in the mix.
That's right. For that. Chris Sheehan is back, baby, and he's better than ever.
And he's bringing the moments. It's all about the moments, and he's bringing it back.
So 10 a.m. Tuesday, the 23rd, we will be reviewing Survivor Series.
Yes.
And then Chris Bailey is going into the woods to live deliberately. And we'll see him in January at the Royal Rumble.
Oh, I cannot wait. I'll be one of the surprise entrants back from a critical injury in December.
And we booed like Rey Mysterio was when everyone thought it was going to be Daniel Bryan. Like, comment, and subscribe. We are on all your podcatchers, Apple Music, Spotify. We live stream all of our video shows on Twitch and YouTube. And you can catch all of our YouTube shows once they have been uploaded, recorded, and whatnot. W2mnet.com is the website, and type W2mnet anywhere where you listen to anything or watch anything, and we will be there. Chris Bailey, what do you got going on these days? When's your next ElfQuest show?
That's coming up this week, hopefully. I was just talking to Mr. Sheehan there earlier this week, and we're trying to arrange that, so that should be coming out very soon, hopefully launch for next week.
And now you're whoring yourself to other shows, aren't you?
Only not this month. That's coming up.
Okay.
Nothing in December at all. So January we'll get to see some other action. But I've
you've been whoring yourself to other shows. You were on the Wizards podcast. What else were you on?
I've been on there a couple. I've been let me see. I've been over with Doc from Superblog Team Up on his podcast where we're doing some magazines and monsters type stuff. We were talking about some Jack Kirby stuff, which was super fun, and hanging out with Mr. Sheehan. And of course, you occupy most of my life, Mark. I'm dedicated.
Chris Bailey is like Snoop Dogg. You say podcast and he just appears.
I do. And I'm like Christian Cage at the top of our screen up here. You see that? I'm doing that. Waiting for my turn.
The Superblog Team Up is on hiatus. We canceled the October one. You were going to do it in December, but now you're living in the woods to live deliberately. So that ever coming back?
I haven't made my mind up on the December one yet. We'll see what the folks want to say. So
I think you should lay it until St. Patrick's Day, and the theme should be drunkenness. The theme should be the Superblog team up. The Superblog team up drinks itself blind.
I'm just going to rebrand it the Super Pod team up and just have it exclusively for us.
All right, folks, that's it. Thanks for joining us here on TV Party Tonight for our I don't know why I'm struggling with this right now. Thank you very much for joining us on TV Party Tonight. For Chris Bailey, I'm Mark Radulich. Be well, be safe, and behave.